What's up, guys? It's your boy Benny. You ever heard of the phrase politics makes strange bedfellows? What that means is that oftentimes you can agree with people on the other side of the aisle on a preponderance of issues. And luckily, human trafficking and protecting predators is one of those issues that can bring people together. Let's bring more people together. We waded into that territory with a big interview that we did this week. And that interview was with a member of Congress named Tim Burchett. Tim Burchett straight up said that intelligence agencies and special interests blackmail people into voting certain ways, into protecting people like Jeffrey Epstein, saying effectively 100%, we've got to start electing people with guts in both parties. There is a blackmail operation in D.C. to make sure that if you are not on the right side, you'll end up naked, as the congressman said, and compromised. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this went thermonuclear all over, of course, the internet. We have actually been shocked at how penetrating, for lack of a better word, this clip was. Jesse Waters covered it on his show last night, for instance, right? Jesse Waters effectively saying, yo, this is a problem. Now you have multiple members of Congress coming out and saying this. It's all being exposed, says Madison Cawthorn, who was on a podcast saying that these were real problems. These are real problems in Washington, D.C. The degeneracy of Congress and also the blackmail, the parties, the drugs, and so forth. Madison was yelled at and screamed out of town, right? Republicans ran against him. Did they run against him for telling the truth? Now there are multiple sex tape investigations happening inside of Congress. We can't even play you the evidence of them because it's so grotesque and it's so degenerate and it's so disgusting. Now, there is a channel that I also think is at times grotesque and disgusting and degenerate called the Young Turks. Big time left-wingers, right? They have been for a very long time. They have a very big and massive channel on YouTube. Here's their channel right here, nearly 6 million subs. Their two main hosts played my interview. Now, of course, the two of these people should generally disagree with me on everything, yet here we are finding unity on protecting the country from predators, protecting children from predators, and by outing the sick bastards who are blackmailing members of Congress in order to not have accountability. Well, hey, hot damn, I'll take it. Let's go. Take it away, Young Turks.
There are some fascinating disclosures by an outgoing Republican congressman. So let's hear what he has to say.
You're visiting, you're out of the country or out of town, or you're in a motel or bar in DC, and whatever you're into, women or men or whatever, comes up and they're very attractive and they're laughing at your jokes and you're buying them a drink. Next thing you know, you're in the motel room with them naked, and next thing you know, you're about to make a key vote, and what happens? Some well-dressed person comes up and whispers in your ear, hey man, there's tapes out on you. And then you're like, uh-oh, and said, you really ought not be voting for this thing.
Some pretty big admissions from Republican congressman, outgoing congressman, I should say, Tim Burchett, who our producer, Alyssa Salmons, wants to note seems to have an affinity for wearing the same outfit. Now, he spoke to a conservative podcaster. You might be familiar with him. His name's Benny Johnson. And during that conversation today, he starts talking about blackmail and depravity within Congress. So a little bit of context before we get to more of their exchange. Burchett and Johnson primarily spoke about why it took so long for the client list of notorious sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein to be ordered unsealed by a federal judge. But at one point, Burchett claimed that many good conservatives and other members of Congress are being entrapped and then blackmailed to vote certain ways. Now let's watch more of what he had to say.
Congressman, you represent the state of Tennessee. Marsha Blackburn has been completely blackballed in the Senate for asking for these flight logs to be released and for this client list to be released. It seems like now you are fighting with her in the House. Why the protection mechanism? And more importantly, you mentioned recently in an interview that there may be some members of Congress who are personally compromised by this, and they don't want the truth to get out.
You got powerful people, and they write the big checks. Well, let's be honest. And powerful people in this country, they write the big checks. And they're the ones out on the tarmac when the president comes and visits, and whichever party they're in. They always either out on the tarmac or in the private room. They're the ones that write the big checks. They don't care who's in. They hate this country. They hate what we're about, but they love their portfolios and they love their money more than they do anything else. And they protect it, and they protect the people that do that. And by doing so, the old honeypot, the Russians do that, and I'm sure members of Congress have been caught up. Why in the world would good conservatives vote for crazy stuff like what we've been seeing out of Congress?
Wow. I mean, I wish he would name names. He didn't, obviously, but I mean, I think what he's saying is true. I think, look, the sex scandal stuff, of course, is going to get most of the attention. But to me, Cenk, his admission about members of Congress voting in favor of nonsense because of being blackmailed, that is the interesting part, because it explains some of what's been going on in Congress, according to Burchett, if the allegations are true. And, in this case, it goes beyond simple corruption, which is, I think, the heart of the problem that we have here in this country. But wow, I wonder if we are going to hear anyone name any names.
Yeah, look, there's a lot in there. So let's start with the folks that are naked. So I mean, that was the best part of the tape. Let's not bury the lead here. Let's also acknowledge here, hashtag Madison Cawthorn was right. So I'm actually a bit shocked by that, to be honest with you.
What?
This is like,
don't be shocked by that. You're crazy.
No,
you're crazy. I wasn't shocked by that for even a second. And I knew they were going to oust him. I knew that the GOP would direct their ire toward him and ensure that he would not get reelected. Why were they so focused on getting him out of Congress? Because he was speaking the truth.
Yeah, I hear you. And apparently that was definitely the case, or at least certainly seems to be the case. So, but like if you said to me, oh, a Republican is caught in a sex scandal, I'd say, oh, so it's Tuesday. Like, I'm not surprised by that at all, right? Like the other day, there was the two staffers who were having gay sex in one of the Senate rooms. The only shocking part of that story was that they weren't Republicans. Right, like, so every time there's a sex scandal, like at least 9 out of 10 times, there's Republicans doing all the things that they say, oh, it's terrible, etc. But inviting a congressman like Madison Cawthorn was saying to an orgy where a bunch of Republicans are getting together and doing cocaine and then having sex with, I don't know, one another and other women, etc. I couldn't believe it. But now here comes, I think Tim Burchett might be the third person who's mentioned. Well, obviously, I mean, you're out there and you get a couple of drinks and next thing you know, you're naked. And then the lobbyists have what, tapes of it? I mean, what in the world is going on in Washington? So
it seems as though he's saying that there is this like honeypot type scheme happening where, I mean, look, if that's true, I am wondering what the laws are in DC. Like, for instance, in California, you can't record someone without their knowledge. In fact, if you get caught doing it, you could face some serious charges for it. I don't know if DC has similar laws, but it appears what Burchett is saying here is that there's like this honeypot scheme where, they do somehow have dirt on these individuals, possibly tapes, and they use it to blackmail members of Congress to ensure certain legislation gets voted in. Man, politics is so dirty, Cenk. It's so dirty. And it shows you that when it comes to their own corruption or maintaining their own power, these members of Congress, they know how to fight and they know how to fight dirty. When it comes to representing the very constituents who put them in those seats to begin with, there's your favorite song. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. Like, it's amazing.
Well, that wraps up my year. That was not something I had on my calendar to end 2023 with the Young Turks going to do a 7-minute segment on how great our reporting is and how much they agree with it in general. Senk, by the way, you were wrong. It's never Republicans in these sex scandals. You might recall Bill Clinton was impeached for a sex scandal. The two latest ongoing sex scandals with criminal investigations happening in Congress are both Democrat staffers. I don't know. Uncomfortable, inconvenient truth for you. Come on the show anytime. Senk. And thanks for featuring our reporting. It's nice to see that some people can come together in this time of togetherness and sing Kumbaya under the mistletoe. But not too close. It's your boy Benny. Stay based and salty.